Chapter 41. Go Time. Hawk stared out the passenger side window, contemplating the task at hand, and barely heard Jody when he asked, "You double-checked the altimeter?" Hawk stuck out his left arm. Attached to his wrist was a digital faceplate. He didn't say anything. They'd gone over everything a million times. He checked the safety on the device fastened around his other wrist. The miniature electromagnetic projectile represented his last chance to avert annihilation. If he failed, it was a wrap. Danny sat in the back, nervously wrapping his fingers over the closed lid of his laptop. Everything depended on what happened next. Jody pulled a map from over the visor and indicated the Naval Air Station runway that Everhart's plane would use. Pointing to the map, he said, "They'll fly right to you, so long as you're already in the air before they take off." "Yeah, well, let's just hope they keep a tight schedule. You'll need to get close enough to see inside." "Yeah, I know." "Okay, let's go over it again. How much flight time do you have?" "At full power, counting both craft, 12 minutes. Less power, more time, 16 minutes max." "What's your first move?" "Launch from the bridge at 0858 hours. Ascend to 4,000 cherubs." "All right. 4 minutes passed at 0902 hours, and he's at your 9 at 2,000 cherubs, ascending at 175 knots. What's your move?" "At that point, I start to descend. When he vectors into the wind, I switch to jetpack." "And what's your altitude now?" "Roughly 3,500 angels." "How much battery time do you have left?" "Less than 3 minutes." "Okay, he's banking and climbing. What are you doing?" "I'm dropping in, diving, picking up speed, coming down on the left ahead of the wing." "All right, you're there. Now what?" "Trigger the device. Peel off. Stay out of the wash." "I'll keep it in mind." "And if the naval station deploys escorts?" "Radar's never going to pick me up. But even if they alert 5, I'll be out of the sky before they can get off the ground." They continued driving toward the bridge at Red Dot Pier, a fishing enclave only a couple of miles southwest of Naval Air Station Corpus Christi. The air station itself is just on the other side of Oso Bay, within a mile of Ward Island. Its close proximity to New Jerusalem made it the ideal presidential departure point. Hawk had gotten the call just 2 weeks earlier. The caller didn't say, but Hawk knew who it was. The man told Hawk that Everhart had every intention of installing himself as the world premier spiritual strongman. In order to do so, Everhart planned to assassinate the Pope while simultaneously strategically nuking major new nation cities. Subsequent panic over the missile attacks would supersede news of the Pope's assassination, after which Everhart, in the role of Superior General of the Society of Jesus, would seize de facto control of the Vatican. Everhart's flight was bound for Avion, where he would attend a memorial service for Glory. His operation would be set in motion the moment he hit the ground. Everhart's plane was scheduled for takeoff at 0900 hours. Hawk checked the time again. He'd have to launch in the next couple of minutes or miss the window. The bridge came in sight. Jody hit the flashers. Danny adjusted the straps on the carbon fiber jet rig stowed in the wagon's cargo area. Danny was concerned that there'd been no practice run through. He quietly asked, "You sure the board can handle the extra jetpack weight?" "We'll know in a minute." As they skidded to a stop, he jumped out. Hawk got out and lifted up the car's rear hatch. Jody snapped a kerosene fuel pack onto Hawk's chest plate. Horns blared from the backed-up traffic as Jody set the flyboard air on a girder and Hawk climbed up on the side of the bridge. He stepped on the flyboard air and fired up the turbos. He lifted off the bridge. Jody and Danny got back in the station wagon and raced off. If things went well, they'd meet in North Beach in a few minutes. Nobody wanted to think about the alternative. Ascending as fast as he could, Hawk checked the altimeter. He didn't have a lot of options if things didn't go the way they were planned. After he'd been in the air for a long couple of minutes with no sign of the airliner, he wondered if his coordinates were correct. He put the board into hover mode. The thinner air made it necessary to keep the turbos at maximum RPMs. He couldn't keep this up for too long. The chest tank was already emptying fast. As Jody drove down U.S. Highway 17 on his way to the 181, he spoke to his cell phone. "Siri, call Sky."
Calling Sky. Connected to Sky. Proceed.
"Sky, can you hear me?" "Affirmative." "Do you see him?" "Negative." "How much fuel do you have?" "Not much." "Jettison the board." "Too soon." "We talked about this. You see him yet?" "Negative. I'm pushing the button." Hold on. Jody nodded to Danny, who pressed the key on the laptop. The kerosene chest tank disconnected from Hawk's breastplate and tumbled toward the bay. The turbo shut down and the flyboard air fell away. Hawk instantly laid out horizontally and formed up to fly the jetpack. Let's see what you got, he thought, as he throttled up the electric engines. The jet had 3 times the power of the board, but he adapted quickly. He banked in a circle to hold his place in the sky. With no target in sight, he started to worry. What if he ran out of power before he got a shot? What if there'd been a delay? He'd never get another chance. Seconds ticked by. Hawk was contemplating the real possibility of failure when he saw it. 1,000 feet below, on his 9, Everhart's plane appeared. If ever a man were born for a moment, it was Hawk for this one. Whenever something called for immediate action, Hawk went to a place that didn't require thought. This wasn't a place of decisions. It was a place of happenings. In these moments, he felt as though he left his body and watched himself from a place outside of himself. As soon as the plane started banking into the wind, Hawk vectored into position and fell in behind it. He twisted the throttle all the way up, and with an assist from the dive, reached a speed of 217 knots. As Everhart's plane banked and gained altitude, Hawk dropped in and dived alongside its left wing. Directing the electromagnetic device at the plane's fuselage, he pressed his right thumb and forefinger together, triggering the device. The device released as he twisted into an inverted dive, soaring down and away from the still climbing aircraft. The electromagnetic device attached to the jetliner's fuselage just as the jetpack lost its power. Hawk released the harness, arched his back, and extended his arms. He'd depend on luck and his wingsuit to see him the rest of the way to North Beach. On board the plane, Carter Boatwright was well aware of what was going to happen next. The electromagnetic device contained a small explosive charge. Once it discharged, it would create a hole just large enough to depressurize the plane's cabin. The device was programmed to react to outside air pressure. When the pressure dropped to less than 4 pounds per square inch, the device would trigger. Boatwright knew that wouldn't happen until they reached 35,000 feet. They'd be well over the Gulf of Mexico by then. Carter Boatwright closed his eyes and let his seat back. For all his planning, Everhart had made one unforgivable mistake. What Everhart had never understood, what he'd never considered, was the fact that Carter Boatwright was not a Christlander. He wasn't a Republican or any other political party adherent. Carter Boatwright was a Jesuit. That's all he was. And as such, he'd simply remained true to his oath. To be all things to all men, to be a spy even among his own brethren, to sink so low as to be a Jew among Jews, even going so far as to become a willing corpse in the service of his Pope. As Everhart's plane headed southwest over the Gulf, Hawk vectored north looking for his landmark. For every 3 feet he traveled forward, he descended 1 foot. He wasn't sure exactly how far away his target was. The target was the UCC Lexington, an out-of-service aircraft carrier anchored at North Beach. The ship was now a museum moored just off Highway 181. He wouldn't land on it, but he'd land near it. Suddenly he saw it. As he ripped the parachute's cord and dropped into the drink, he hoped his luck would hold out. These waters were full of jellyfish.